So if you go to YouTube and search for "my computer won't turn on" or "how do I fix my computer that won't turn on," you will get a bunch of different results and videos that are related to their specific problem, and they won't necessarily fix your problem. They will talk about a computer that they have, and they will show you how to fix their own computer, not yours. What we need to do is actually think about different reasons why your computer is not turning on and how we actually came into this situation. Think about the reason when this happened. If you happen to be in the middle of playing a video game, video editing, watching a video, or just surfing the internet, and suddenly your computer stopped working, that's one thing we need to consider. If you didn't use your computer for a long time, and then you try to turn it on, and then suddenly it's not working, then that's another scenario we need to consider. And again, in this video, we will go over a bunch of different reasons why you should check. And this is not meant to actually insult anybody's intelligence. These are just the issues that came up during my desktop support experience as an IT professional. All right, let's get it going. First thing we need to check is, does it have power? Is it simply plugged in? Is it plugged into the back of the computer? Is it plugged into your power supply? Is it plugged into a power switch, right? Does it have a power strip, I should say? Your power strip sometimes have a switch on it that you may have accidentally kicked, and then that switch was turned off, and now your power strip is not providing power to your computer. Is it plugged into the wall socket? Does your wall socket have power? These are simple things we need to consider. Moving on. Maybe your power supply is bad. So going back to the situational thing. Did you happen to play a video game, for example, or do anything on your computer, and then suddenly your computer died? If you happen to smell something, that's a typical situation in which your power supply is dead. What you're smelling is most likely a power capacitor that blew, and now it's smelling because it's burning, right? This is a really good sign that your power supply is bad. Moving on, maybe your monitor is not working. Again, this is not meant to insult anybody's intelligence, but I've seen this so many times. People think that their computer won't turn on, but in fact, it was just their monitor that was either didn't have power, didn't have signal, or monitor simply wouldn't turn on, and it wasn't the PC issue whatsoever. Moving on, maybe your motherboard is dead. Same thing. If you smell something really bad, there's a good chance that maybe your motherboard power capacitors blew. These are the capacitors that you see all around this chipset, right? If you open up your computer, you can see your motherboard and a bunch of different things there. Look at these capacitors. If they're all bloated up, if they're all swelled up, I should say, you can see that they blew, that they're burnt, and of course you would smell it, right? Moving on. Your CPU is overheating. This can happen with a lot of custom builds. Your heatsink may not be seated properly, or you simply have a dirty computer. You need to open up your computer, see if it's dirty. If there's a lot of dust, we need to clean it out. Not only around the CPU and the heatsink, but also the power supply and everything else, just to kind of make sure it's not overheating, right? But again, with the custom built PCs, this is what I've seen most of the time, is that this power supply is not clipped in. See these clips? They're not clipped in, and it's just loose, and it's overheating, and this is your just the protection, your automatic protection built in within your motherboard system to help prevent your CPU from burning out. So it won't turn on because your heatsink is not seated and it's overheating. Check the power supply cables. Again, if you look at your motherboard, you will see a bunch of different cables connected to it. Make sure they're all seated properly. If you have to unplug them back in, that could be a reason why your computer won't turn on. Moving on. Your motherboard's battery is dead. Now, if you have a really old computer, this might be the case, but the battery here on the right-hand side could be dead, and this is what holds your BIOS information. And if it doesn't have that, then it won't turn on because your BIOS won't be functioning properly. So you can switch this battery out. You just pop it out, switch it to a new one. But I've never, one time in my many years of IT experience, I've seen a battery go bad. So chances are this is not the case, but it's definitely something to consider as one of the last resorts, right? Is it a custom built PC? And let's say you just built this computer and then it won't power up. You bought all your parts, you put it all together, and suddenly it won't come up. You have to kind of make sure that the power switch is connected. This is what comes from your front panel of your computer. You will have a cable just like this that has power SW on it. You have to make sure it's inserted in the proper place in order for it to turn on when you press the power button on the front of your case. Moving on. Maybe your expansion cards or your RAM is loose. Again, double check. There's a chance that maybe your video card is bad, or just loose. Maybe you didn't put it in properly and suddenly won't power up. The same thing can happen with RAM, but you would hear a bunch of beeping and postcodes, right? So make sure everything is seated properly. Make sure that everything checks out. That way, that's another reason, right? Moving on. Are there any postcodes, right? Check the codes online, right? So if you hear beeps, and okay, so let's say you don't know what's causing the problem, but you do hear the beeps, right? Your computer won't turn on all the way, but you hear the beeps. Record how many beeps, how many intervals, and then go online and check what those beeps mean. They will tell you what is wrong. A lot of times they would just say let's say your video card is loose. It could say that, right? So that's one thing to consider. Is it a laptop? If it's a laptop, this is one of those things that you kind of get into a different situation where your battery might be dead. So take your battery out. Take your battery out of the laptop, plug it directly into your power cable, and then hold the switch, a power switch, for about 10 seconds and let it come on. Chances are you have a bad battery or it won't charge or something like that. That's one thing you can do to check your laptop, right? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this presentation that I quickly put together. I hope at least it gives you an idea of what to look for. Because again, we don't know. I don't know what your issue may be when it comes to your computer turning on. And these are just some things that you can think about. And I'm sure, I missed a couple of things here and there, but these are some of the major things that I've encountered as an IT professional in my field, right? So I wish you best of luck. I really can't end this any other way. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.